Welcome to the Beauties Podcast, where we talk about everything you need to know about women's sports. From the grassroots to the pros, we got it all. Today on the show, we asked you beauties for some feedback, and our beauties community delivered. We wanted to say thank you. Here are your hosts, Addie and Cowie.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Beauties Sports Desk. There has been so much happening this week with the Women's College World Series going on. What a wild game. Cowie, did you see any of it?
I saw some. I watched more via Instagram, I'll be honest.
Me too.
I do wish those were more accessible because it was a packed house of some very enthusiastic fans.
I think it was consistently 80,000 people.
Wild, eh?
I'm like, could you imagine playing consistently in front of 80,000?
Well, I mean, me personally as a wash-up, yeah. No. But yeah, I think it would be pretty freaking awesome to play in front of 80,000 people.
Those women are so incredible, and Texas being unseeded, making it to the final,
throwing the horns up everywhere they went.
It was unreal. Obviously, Oklahoma taking that in 2 straight for the championship. But I'm telling you, that is an absolute banger event.
Well, and in the U.S. specifically, like they do such a good job of making softball huge. And
so here's my question of the day to get her going.
Okay.
There's no comparable men's program.
Very good point.
And now you look at where that support is. And it was one of the coolest things. So I watched a little bit of the game, but then I watched a lot of the Instagram and the feeds and everything like that following.
Yeah.
And every single little girl that they went up to, like randomly out of nowhere, could tell you their favorite player and why.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Every single one was like, I want to be like her because she pitched a no-hitter 2 years ago. And, and I'm like, that is unreal. There
is a culture that is woven into the seam of that league.
Oh, it's insane. So, yeah, I'm fired up, obviously, about it because it was, like, amazing. So I wanted to start the show off with that. But we've been talking a lot about hearing back from our viewers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wanting to make sure that we're hitting the things that everybody wanted us to hit on, and did a lot of polls, and have honestly been having a lot of conversations within the community and talking with people about women's sports and what they find fascinating. And we got some pretty good feedback.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for us to talk about the feedback we got. And hopefully the purpose of us talking about it is that it will continue to stir more.
Yes. Yes.
So we had talked about in the last episode that we put some questions out onto our Instagram. If you don't already follow us on Instagram, now's a good time. I don't care if you're driving. Pull over, man. Beauty Sports Talk on Instagram. And the first question that we asked on there was, what do you prefer to listen to on the podcast?
Yeah.
So we threw out 4 options. Do you like to hear about pro sports? So you like when Addie and I banter about the WNBA or the NWSL or LPGA? Do you like to hear personal stories from us, which we aren't super great at sharing? Do you like the interviews? So we've had a handful of we're biased, but we think pretty cool interviews on the podcast. Or do you like to hear the hard conversations the most? So, things that may be considered more controversial, or that may have a variety of different opinions.
And so I just want to cut off here for a second, because when you brought off cool people in interviews, shout out to Holly Naughton, who just gets off, goes Egypt right to Vancouver, national champion, unbelievable. Shout out to you, Holly. Incredible performance. That was amazing.
I know. Did you see? I think her bag was late showing up.
Oh,
I was following along on Instagram. So again, we've plugged this, but if you don't, go follow Holly on Instagram as well. She got on the plane from Egypt, and then I was messaging her on Instagram, and her flight was delayed, and then her stuff didn't show up in Vancouver. Didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
National
Such
champ.
a beaut, baby.
And then immediately basically got on a bird back over to the UK.
Unreal.
To literally kiss babies. I don't know if that's a niece or godchild or what for her, but yeah, you're right. Big congrats to Holly.
Huge. So it's been so great to talk to amazing people like that for sure. And it was really cool for us to see that people actually want to hear, learn, be a part of harder conversations surrounding female athletics.
Yeah.
Because we're in.
Yeah, well, we've bantered back and forth of how far do you go?
Yeah.
Right? And we said that last episode a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't want people to think that we're just here to tear shit up. That's not the purpose.
Yeah.
It needs to be purposeful, but we do need to be able to be constructively critical of where we are in certain sports and the landscape of it and our thoughts on where that can evolve. So to see that 30% of the people that responded to our Instagram poll want to hear that was encouraging.
Yes, very, very much so. And I think that, it's not always positive in sports, and to sit around and think that it is unrealistic and isn't progressive.
No.
To hold accountability and to talk about hard things and to talk about, the standard in which girls are coached and all these different conversations that we could have. That's the true point of change. And that's how you really push the needle, is allowing people to know, hey, maybe you're not the only person that thinks this way. And if you do have a conversation, we are all ears, because we are in this to skyrocket any conversation that comes our way.
Yeah. And then the interviews, I like almost 40% of you want to hear more, which is cool. I think that just also shows, we talked about that in like episode 1 through 5. I think we kind of hit that a few times in the fact that it's really hard to find content around women's sports.
Yeah.
And so I found that super encouraging, that a large portion of the people who responded to our poll are really intrigued by getting to hear more from athletes, and whether that is, young athletes who are graduating out of high school and moving into their U Sports or NCAA careers, or pro athletes or national champions like Holly.
Yeah.
We've got 2 national champs now. Remember Concordia Stingers were on the pod.
Oh, so Olivia Halesky. That's right.
So we're starting to...
She's... Concordia's been on a celebrity tour. I'll tell you that much. Every time I see the Stingers Instagram, it's like, we're meeting the mayor. We're meeting this. Cool. I'm like, rocket.
I love that.
Giving out Stingers jerseys left, right, and center. I'm all for it.
Grow it.
So that's very true. Very true. So, and feeding off that in the sense of a lot of people, and we had a really big conversation about this, like, quite a few podcasts ago, when Gary D went on that huge rant about, we should be able to learn more about prospects coming up. That is becoming it's a huge part. It's a huge want from people. People want to start learning more about young female athletes that are pushing into the pros. Like, even with Sanford just winning a national championship in golf, like, those women are just literally punching their ticket into the LPGA. We need to know who they are. We need to know who they are, where they grew up, what their background is, what their strengths and weaknesses are. Yeah. It's important. And it was an unbelievable match watching Stanford play. But and with having Mia Bandman on the show, signing with UBC, it has become a huge want of people learning more about it. Yeah, well, so it's super nice that we have got to see the U18 women's world championships, U18 world. I was drinking coffee, thinking worlds,
which are in Wisconsin. Canada-US final coming up. But I think we've for years we've seen, you think of like the Connor Bedards, who have been lighting up the WHL for us in hockey and guys, and we just don't have that with the girls side. And it was really that we had that a few times come through, topics that we should cover, and that's one that kept coming up, is keep talking to the up and coming athletes, because we want them to be mainstream by the time they're in a professional setting. So that's awesome.
Well, yeah. And the amount of feedback we got about having Bailey Dirksen on the show and the amazing career she is also going to have being at UBC, right? Like that is so encouraging for us to know that that's a positive thing for people that listen to the show want to hear, because that's super important to Cowie and I, continuing to grow that piece of it. So we are going to have up and comers coming on lots. And they are like, when we talk to them, they're like wise beyond their years.
Oh, like, if they would have, like, if we would have had a 17-year-old Cowie on a podcast, people would have been like, where is the mute? Yeah. Where is the mute button? Turn this hooligan off right now. And then we have these young women come on here, and it's like, has someone trained you on how to speak professionally? Yeah. They're so well put together. I do think that is an evolution that we need to recognize in sports too. That it is becoming more mainstay of your development in sports, but it is. It's wild to hear them speak, because oh gosh.
I couldn't agree more, because when I was thinking about it too, like I remember being interviewed back in the day and they're like, so what do you think about this game? I'm like, I'm going to work real hard and I'm going to get in the corners.
the classic term. You just got to get pucks deep.
Chip and go.
In the corners.
Shoot with purpose, like all the token things. And they're talking about like motivation and drive and just incredible. So we're with interviews moving forward, it's definitely going to continue on with the prospects, because that is so fun. And to see them being so excited about their careers moving forward, huge, right? Huge. Current athletes. And then also another piece that's super exciting is people leaving the sport and finding a place within it that fits them, right? So when I say leaving the sport, it's either, they're getting into coaching or they're, sports psych, finding their path after sport, because that's a huge conversation that we definitely need to talk more about, is when girls get into the funnel of sports, everyone always thinks, oh, well, pro leagues aren't that accessible, like get in for an education, when really it should be full tilt towards that sport. And then if you don't make it and you still love it, find something around it that you love. It's now there's women that are GMs, skills coaches,
player development.
The careers surrounding sports need to become more mainstream topics when we're talking about female athletes. Maybe you get to a point, and there's tons of people that I've coached where they get to the point where, it's kind of make or break time. You either have to make a decision of playing or at a level where you're going to commit to it or not. And they're like, I love the sport, but I want to train people in the sport off ice. Okay. Yeah. Keep going. But we don't talk about that enough. Yeah. That sports is not just pro or nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's get your girls in sports, because sports are incredibly healthy for a number of different reasons. But if they don't make it pro, it doesn't mean they still can't be a pro. You can be a pro in other ways.
Yeah, I think people take for granted you can fall in love with sports and want to be a phys ed teacher. Right? Because you want to teach and you want to grow a passion for athletics and understanding body movement and all of these things. You're still involved in sports.
Yeah, totally.
And you need to find, a passion within you that allows you to transfer those skills. So I agree that the NFL does a pretty decent job of that with their, women's, this women's coach combine. We talked about it in one of the earlier episodes. Yeah. They do a really good job of allowing women specifically to understand that you can work within sports without being the athlete.
Yeah. And you would be, I think I've been personally surprised in the past of how that is just not a natural conversation for people to have. You know what I mean? Like,
well, we also don't, you think about the times where you thought about your life, like it was those career days or whatever at school.
Yeah.
But it's the same freaking things. And depending where you're located, like for us, there was lots of oil and gas because we were close to lots of oil and gas.
Yeah.
Right? It's agriculture, it's nursing, it's teaching.
Right.
It's the same, it's within the industries that are in your location. It's not like dream. It's not a career dream convention.
Yeah.
It's like what's accessible to you if you lived here for your whole life.
Yeah. No, valid. And like like even feeding off of the location piece of it, like we've got an interview lined up in a little bit of athlete that has literally picked up her life and moved to Sweden for the last 6 years and is now transitioning into another piece of her sport. But it's like sports is literally the vehicle that can take you around the world doing what you love. And then even when you're done, maybe that specific thing, you can transition to another piece of sport.
Yep.
Right? Ashley Barty, pro golfer now. I know it's not for fact. I'm just shooting the shit, but
you want her to
I
be
just want her really bad.
But then if she gets into the sport, then we got someone else to compete with Brookie Henderson for the title that she just won.
Yeah. So. Brookie, such a beaut.
Yep.
Just won it. So I think that like the fact that we tossed out like essentially like tell us what's up, tell us what's going on, and it was responded with we love interviews, personal stories, hard combos. That's cool.
Totally cool. There was some topics that I'm excited to cover too as we go down the road. So just to spur your thoughts as you're listening, some of the things that we got suggested to us, we're having conversations around burnout.
Yeah.
Which it honestly isn't talked about enough.
No.
You have to learn to miss the sport. Motivation, self-compassion. There's lots of conversations that we can have around body positivity, sport life balance. I think those things, we started to get into maybe some of that with Dr. Too Good, but I think we should have some of those conversations with athletes themselves.
Yeah.
Because it is something that you definitely, you think about your university life and how quickly you can burn out.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And not having the conversation enough of missing the sport. Miss the game. And
miss the sport, yeah. And
that's a very, very powerful tool. If you use it right and you use it, like you have to, there's a reason that essentially as soon as season's done for every sport other than golf, everyone's golfing.
Yeah.
It's completely different. It's outdoors. You're in the sun. You don't have to think about your swing at a competitive level. Yeah. You just go out and play golf.
Have a beer with your buddies.
Right? Yeah. It's there is an element of having to genuinely step away and learn about that. And that is we've probably said this phrase a million times this episode, but it's not talked about enough.
No.
It's not talked about enough.
No, it isn't. And one thing I am going to throw in here, I'm going to challenge, Addie and I talked about this before we hit record today. I'm going to challenge all you. We say it at the end of every episode. But continue to engage with us. Rate, review the podcast. Leave a review. Tell us what's going on. Help other people understand what we're having conversations about. But engage with us through our social media channels as well. Because, doing this once a week, there's lots of things that Addie and I think can be impactful or that people want to listen to. But the only way that we for sure nail that every week is if we hear from you guys. So thank you for the feedback we've got so far, but continue to engage with us that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it allows us to really, if there is like quote unquote a harder conversation, we can really be specific about what we're talking about with it if we hear from people, right? So massive. If take a minute out of your day to do that, that would be very greatly appreciated. But even the conversation of, and we get this a lot, is teaching and talking to girls about compete, respectful competition. When do we teach them about compete? What age? All these different things. Like that's what I want a Beers with Beauties episode to be.
Okay.
Let's get some beers on the table and just talk about competing for an hour.
It's going to end up in arm wrestles.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What is it when you lie on the floor and you smoke your legs against each other? Leg wrestles?
Yes.
Those were
leg wrestling. I do think, I want to talk about this. So this week I got in the truck and went and saw my little 7-year-old niece play ball.
Sweet.
And I think it was just such an interesting experience from how much we talk about speaking the right way and the terminology and making sure that it's equal opportunity and all of these conversations. On the ride to I picked her up from my nephew's game and took her home to change, and then we went to her game. On the ride from the ball diamond home, she said, "Auntie, do you think you can volunteer at first base?" And I said, "Well, I didn't bring my glove, but probably. Yeah, sure, why not?" Yeah. And her response was, "'Cause moms and aunties can do that too. It's not just dads."
Come on.
She's 7.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having and recognizing, and really she wanted her mom. My sister is pregnant with twins right now, so running around the baseball diamond seems less exciting for her than me. But I thought how interesting that we have a little 7-year-old who genuinely really wants female representation in front of her.
Yeah. And saying it's so innocent.
Totally.
Like just
wants a girl.
We can do it too.
Why is it only that the dads volunteer?
Yeah.
So moms,
let's go.
Yeah. But then you also saw some stuff. You went on holidays, and Addie sent me a picture. She said no words with the picture. She just sent me a picture of this arcade machine, and there was 2 buttons that you could select to hit the thing to see how high you send the little bell up the thing. It was women and kids or big guys.
Yeah.
And the messaging that sends not only to the women and kids, but to the big guys. Or anyone that falls in between any of those 2 categories and doesn't see themselves fitting either.
Yeah.
Just the way that we have lived in a world that is very gendered, and
and I saw it, and I said, you're right. I sent that picture to you, and I didn't have no words with it. I just sent it to you, and you knew exactly what I meant when I sent it. But I'm so interested by that conversation because I have a son, and like he's a little badass. Like he's so fun and whatever. But he looks at that, and immediately he goes, "Well, I'm a big guy." Yeah. And I'm like, "Yeah, you are, man." Yep. And he's like, "But you're a woman. So you hit this button and I hit this button." Oh, yeah. And we wonder how those conversations start. He's 3, right? We need to be super conscious of that because I grabbed his hand and I went, "I'm a big guy," and I hit it and I smoked that thing so hard.
Yeah, back to the competitive part.
And here's the thing, but I made him hit big guy too. Yeah. I said, we're both big guys. Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, we're both big guys," not knowing the whole dynamic of the situation, right? Yeah. I spent $50 on that machine.
Trying to prove we're a big guy.
I'm like, getting all the girls over that we were on the trip with. I'm like, "Here, hit the big guy button." And they're like, making a point of it. Yeah. But it's I'm so conscious of it constantly to make sure that messaging is always like, no, we're all big guys. We're all competitive. It's And I
think that's one, just again to challenge our listeners of being cognizant of that. I had an experience. I went to played around a golf, and the men's washroom in this facility was a multi-bathroom location. So it was a public door that multiple men could walk into, and the women's bathroom was one stall. What's that saying? This is a man's sport.
Yeah.
We need to have enough bathrooms to accommodate all of the men, but we only need one stall for women because there's not that many of them that do this.
Yeah, that's very...
And so when you're aware of it, you notice all of those things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you notice, now that you've listened, you will notice because it is everywhere.
Yeah, and if you find stuff, share it with us.
Yeah, let's go.
I think we're always interested to see how that's interpreted or what is out in the world, that how many little changes that we could all make that make it where Harry doesn't have to say, but you're a woman, Mom, press this button.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So that was, one of those fun times. Just smoking this thing.
I just sent you back the puke face on,
Yeah.
on text. Oh, that makes me not feel good.
That's no fun.
That's not a warm fuzzy.
Yeah, exactly. So we do have we are going to be, as Beauty Sports, launching something pretty special in regards to that. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open for this new thing that we will be launching, because Beauty Sports is full tilt. We're in this, So any stories revolving that, we're totally in for. And we actually had quite a few women reach out in saying, there was that one story about the coach in the kitchen duty one that, we've got to bring her on to be able to explain that story in depth, right? Because that's the pinnacle of it, right?
Again, that gives me the heaves. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been fascinating hearing everybody's stories. So definitely, please do not feel like you are being too open. We are very open to all the different things and talking about it, because that's how we grow. And that's how we grow this damn thing. Yeah.
So 24% of the people who responded to our Instagram stories wanted to hear more personal things from Addie and I.
They didn't know they were signing up for it.
I know. Honestly, right? It's like, are you sure?
I don't know of you.
We should look back at the respondents to that. For sure, none of them know us.
Yeah, that's right.
Personally. But we did get some questions that came through, and we have prepped nothing.
Nada.
So one of the questions that I think is the easiest place for us to start is, are we currently playing any sports? Addie, do you play any sports still?
I am not playing any sports as of now, because I'm still semi on the ice coaching. Mm-hmm. But I am actually very interested in taking tennis lessons.
No kidding.
Yeah. I've reached out, and I'm probably going to go in for a lesson and get my ass kicked just for fun and see what it's all about. But I've been, ever since watching, I'm a huge fan of Serena Williams, obviously, but Naomi Osaka, Leila Fernandez, Emma Raducanu, I am fascinated with these women, and I'm like, I need to see how hard this is, because they make it look effortless. Effortless. So I'm gonna get out there, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna see how freaking hard this thing is.
I love that. I love that you're gonna try it. I think we still should try squash for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We're gonna do a whole thing with Holly.
Yeah, and we still gotta get out and try curling.
Oh, yeah.
We also got to get the rest of Team Laws on here. So that'll happen hopefully sooner than later. We'll trickle that in, but we got to go embarrass ourselves with them.
Yeah.
You sell yourself short. We're talking about we're coaching this weekend in Minneapolis coming up, and we're taking our golf clubs. So you still do a few things.
Oh, right. That's true. You were on the course a couple times.
Yeah, I've been out a couple times this week, and it wasn't all bad.
Come on.
Which is wild for me, because I was saying to my mom, I needed a break from life, so I called my mom, and she was so lovely to allow me to go on a round of golf with her. And I used to be... I used to swing my golf club like a baseball bat, which is part of the first problem. And I used to just have like an absolute banana slice. Like I would aim my feet to the other fairway in hopes that it would just like boomerang back onto this one.
Yeah.
And so I can actually hit my driver straight this year, and last year wasn't too bad either. But I have old habits, and so there's anyone from Surus who's listening on hole number 6. I got up to crank the ball, and I had my feet aimed, and sure enough, she went super freaking straight right onto the third fairway. I was like, cool, yep, that's
best?
good.
When you connect so well and it's like straight into the trees and you're like,
dang,
toss me another.
Yeah,
I ain't going to fish for that.
Exactly.
Your mom was probably just fired up though. She's an avid golfer.
Yeah, she loves to golf. She gets a little pissy with me in some points because she's also super competitive, and she golfs on the regular and I don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, she often calls me an athletic biatch.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, you athletic biatch. Because she's 60 and I'm 34, and so like everything is in my favor in that way, and that she's a very leisure for fun golfer. But
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you're right. Golf is definitely you got a couple games on me right off the bat, but we're gonna get caught up when we skedaddle this weekend.
Yeah, and otherwise, I don't do. I mean, I play some hockey here and there, off and on. I play in the odd ball tournament with some friends, but not super competitive at much of anything.
Yeah.
You know what I like to do now, which is interesting, and I think this is for people who like finding your way through just continuing to be active, is Ashley and I bought kayaks.
Oh, yeah.
So we go and like to kayak together, and things like that. And if you haven't done that, I mean, I remember one time we were out in Ontario, and it was called Sandbar Lake, and like boats weren't going out. Well, Ash and I throw our kayaks in there.
For sure.
Yeah, no problem. Oh my God. You want to talk about your shoulders feeling like they're going to fall out.
Unreal.
Arms going to fall out of their sockets by the time it's a good thing that the wind brought us back to shore.
You just went for a challenge.
Yep.
You're like, get the kayaks in there.
I tipped my kayak in the Seine River in Winnipeg. It's like a creek, or not this year because everything's high. But yeah, I was like being all cocky, had a drink, I'm paddling along. There's this tree that's sticking out into the water, and I go to push myself off, and I just pushed myself into a fucking spinner.
I would come up like money.
You can picture my eyes; they're the size of saucers. I'm like, what just happened here? So then, this is how deep the river is. I walk my kayak to shore. It's like flipping your kayak in a puddle. So I drag my kayak to shore, and the first thing I'm like, geez, I am so cocky that I didn't even. My phone was just willy nilly.
Come on.
You know where it is? Right in the bottom of the kayak. As I'm dumping the water out, I hear this clunk, clunk, clunk. My phone dumps from the tip of the kayak to the tail where the drain is.
No
I had to
way.
give it a big shake to get my phone back out.
That would be a really cool episode, is to bring on like a rower or a kayaker. Like,
for sure.
And to just hear about their training.
Insane. Super intense.
Oh, just ripped top to bottom. Just, it's like you see the most jacked human being walk through the room and they're like, I'm a rower. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Of course you are.
Of course you are.
I claim I'm a rower. Would you have guessed?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Yeah, they are incredible. That's cool. That's funny.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, so if you haven't kayaked, I would encourage everyone to do it. I think it's super fun, but don't get cocky about it and try to, like I literally pushed myself into a barrel roll.
Oh, jeez. That's hilarious.
In the muddy, mucky Seine River. Where you come up and
walked out.
Yeah. I know, right? It's funny. One of the questions that came through was what's our most embarrassing moments in sports? And like that, I wasn't embarrassed. Honestly, I was just more mad that I was soaked.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like I was in a bathing suit. Like I went out in shorts and a tee.
And then
you got to paddle home in a soggy ass shorts and a tee.
The drive of shame.
And then you got to drive your truck home and you're soaked. You don't bring a towel to the kayak, or I don't.
Yeah.
Who expects to go in the water? No one. You expect to float on top of it.
You don't pack a survival kit when you don't. Here's my
have
clothes.
One of those nice things you buy. Like you go to Mexico on the beach and they're all selling those like neck things where you put your phone in and it like does up so it's safe.
Yeah.
No, you don't take that kind of thing. You just let your phone rattle around playing music in the right next to my sandwich that floated down the Seine. Like, so stupid.
So fun. And hearing your phone like tinker down the boat as you drain it.
Yeah, and Ashley's like, should I get out and look? Like, she's so kind. So if any of you know my wife Ashley, she's like, that was her first reaction, was like, oh my gosh, should I look for your phone? And I was like, the river's brown.
Yeah.
Like,
she gone.
Just gonna take your shoes off and wiggle your toes in the mush. And I'm like, no, if it's in the river, it's for sure gone.
Yeah.
And then, I tip my kayak up and bang, 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 down to the bottom of the kayak. My phone goes.
Oh, that's crazy. That's funny.
That was a rabbit hole for you.
Yeah. I liked it, though. I went deep with you. I went right down to
Okay, so some of these other questions, some are more conversational that we'll get to in another episode. Someone asked just like wanting to hear more of our experiences in sports, which I think we could rabbit hole for hours. But two of the questions that came up, your most embarrassing moment in sports that you can remember. Do you have one?
Most embarrassing, I was probably like away from the sport. Like, honestly, when I look back at like interviews and pictures, like that's what made me think
your hair color choices.
With my hair. One nationals, I was nominated for Rookie of the Year for U Sport. And I got dared by my teammates to shave a mohawk. And I was like, okay. So
it's a dare. It means I have to do it.
It means it's 100%. So I show up and I'm nominated for this Rookie of the Year award. And I show up with a mohawk, and my freaking coach was probably like, yeah, that's her. That's the one over there. And I show up to this super fancy banquet, and I like, everybody who knows me knows that I'm not doing the dress thing or the fancy whatever thing. Like, that's just not in me. So these banquets were always like
a little stressful to begin with.
Is there a bar somewhere near my table? And it's just one of those things. And then I show up and I got a mohawk too to be at that event. So they knew what they were doing, though. My teammates.
Yeah, of course they did.
They knew what they were doing. It was me and one other human being that did it together. So we showed up with mohawks. And so like when I think embarrassing, I think off ice, I was just a total joke. In every facet of my hair, my clothes, interviews, just a joke.
I honestly though, I think, isn't that funny? Because it's hard to have embarrassing moments in sports to me.
Yeah. Like,
I think like there's been a few things in my life that I would classify like I took a baseball off the nose. And you can imagine how
pretty good.
That turned out. Yeah. And so like things like I remember playing in a tournament here over Christmas in the city as, I don't know, maybe 14 or 15, I think. And I had my head turned and a girl caught me right on the top of the helmet, and my helmet was too loose. And so the top of it came across the bridge of my nose. 2 nose events, but I was leaking blood everywhere, and my coach came out and he was like, "Are you okay?" And my response was, "I think my brain's in my nose." I was like, that's all I could feel. I was like, I'm pretty sure my brain is in my nose right now. But you can't have, like, I think of injuries for me were some of the most embarrassing because most of them were either self-inflicted in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you have necessarily embarrassing moments in the sport.
Yeah. Like, I'm like even thinking of teammates and different things. Like, I can't remember there being too many times where I was like, oh, that's embarrassing. But like, you know what I mean? Like
outside of the sport, I 1000% agree with you.
Like anything, like there's so many different, like even coaching interactions. Like I would play shortstop and ball, and then I got like line drived in the kneecap, like so hard. And I'm limping around out there because like I will not go down.
Yeah.
I will die.
Yeah.
And my coach goes over, hits me on the back and goes, shake it off. And if not, we're going to go chug a beer and then come back and you'll be fine. I'm like, I'm 13.
Yeah,
I'm 13. Did you just ask me to shotgun a beer in the truck with you to make my pain go away? Like, so old school. Like, shake it off or we're going to shot ski a beer quick, get you back in the game. I'm like, I am 13.
I don't think my mom approves.
I'll never forget it because he was such a funny guy too. Like, and it was an intense time. And I think maybe that was his way of like lightening up the situation because I was in so much pain. But I'm like, is this
helping?
What's happening?
Yeah, no, yeah. I've had some bad injuries too, like that. And some of them in that way, I guess, kind of are embarrassing.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, like
but limping around, I guess.
But I think the most embarrassing moments, you're right, come with your teammates.
Oh,
that are completely off the field or off the ice.
And that make you laugh and have like the amount of stories, the amount of dressing room stories, and like we could do a whole thing on this too of like the locker room is such a sacred place when it's protected that it's like
you almost don't want to share the stories here.
No, that's right. We don't. If you're gonna share the stories, you got to bring the people on the show.
I know,
that's
right?
That's the rule because they got to be able to say it themselves. But I like the amount of stories in the dressing room that you hear from other people, and they, like that's the fun. That's the shit that I remember.
Yeah,
and the on ice stuff is
what it is.
Yeah.
I think about even. You think about even in our adult life. Remember that? Were you at the Pitch for Pride tournament where I brought that homemade? I called it the shotgun, and it was so anyone who works in agriculture, this will speak to you. It was a cattle delicer attached to a backpack sprayer.
Oh yes, of course. I totally remember it. I don't know what a cattle delicer is or de-icer. Is that what you said?
Delicer. Like it's how you spray. Like so, same way you would give JoJo like tick medication.
Yeah.
You can do that for your livestock. And so this, you can change the cc's, how much it puts out of this like hand pump gun. But when I'm talking like 100 cc's, it just jams it straight down your throat. You don't choose to swallow that drink.
Yeah.
And then I poured all of the things in the backpack. And this is pre-COVID, by the way. But you don't put your lips on this, so it would be fine.
Yeah.
And then we hung it on. Then we put a bag of ice and we hung it on the fence at our dugout. And then even our opposing teams were coming by and just shooting this cattle delicer shots down each other's throats.
I totally remember
you
that.
Talk about like finding an embarrassing day. That ends up a very embarrassing day in sports.
It's funny because my memory of that is you having some type of backpack on with a shotgun coming out of it. Like, not that it had anything to do with agriculture, just that you had this wicked shotgun backpack. You're ripping around the dugouts. Just having a time.
As I'm doing my job and I'm purchasing stuff from my dealers of like, oh, they bought augers or bins from me and I'm buying cattle delicers and a backpack yard sprayer from them.
I know what I can use this for. That's unreal. Yeah. So the amount of stories, and we'll definitely be bringing on some old teammates and stuff because
that's worth it.
It's worth it. There are some funny ones. Like I got a couple on the top of my head, but yeah, like when we're with the feedback and talking about all these different things, like I am so excited for this next beauties in general, obviously, but with this feedback and with you guys getting back to us about everything that you want to hear, like this is really cool to see that this is the direction that people want to hear because this is fun. Oh, this is so fun.
Is it ever fun? Yeah, I do want to, before we go, 1 second here. I gotta look.
Just rifling through Instagram like crazy right now.
Yeah. Okay. So we had, and I'm not going to be able to name everyone here, but some people that have interacted with the show or that are local to us here. So BFL does Coach of the Year awards. Some are high performance. So Ashley had won a couple years ago High Performance Coach of the Year for this province, and they do it on a province by province basis. One is a high performance award, and one is for, I think it's community development, kind of more grassroots focused. So in this province, we had Amy Dirksen win the community development award. So Amy, we see you. Tess Houston won the High Performance Coach of the Year in this province. So shout out to Tess.
What? Yeah. Where was this announced?
Well, I just saw it come through on Instagram. And then
Tess, congrats, buddy.
I know, right? And then friend of the show up north of us, Torrey Spencer won the Coach of the Year award up in, where is she? Northwest Territories.
Are you kidding?
So we got some cool people connected to the show that were recognized on a national level for their contributions to hockey specifically. So congratulations to those women.
That is huge.
Yeah,
that is amazing. Congrats. That's awesome. So yeah, like, and those are people that are doing incredible things in the community. They are the standard in which we should all be working towards to grow female sports and to really do it the right way.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. So that is one of the things that came through in our feedback was you guys want more local content, and right now our listener base is largely local, so I think this is a great opportunity for us to highlight some local people who are making a difference. Amazing.
So we listened to the feedback. We're all in on it, and I'm excited to see, because we've got some pretty cool people. We're going to be on location. Yeah. We're going to be launching new things with Beauties in specific to female athletics. It's fun.
Yeah, the future is bright.
Yeah, huge. So thank you guys all for that. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was super fun. So Cowie, final words.
Same as always, buddy. It is always a slice to have you sitting in my basement with me chatting about sports. It's one of my favorite times of the week still, episode 30. If this is episode 30 for you, you are a dedicated fan. We love you, my friend. If this is episode 1, thank you for being here. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beauty Sports Talk, on Twitter at _Beauty Sports. You can leave us a voicemail, speakpipe.com/Beauty Sports. You can find our website at beautysports.com. We got some merch up there and some exciting things to come. But thank you. Continue to engage with us, and we look forward to engaging with you in the future.
Thanks you so much, and we will see you all next week.